So welcome to Edit Anywhere versus Edit Defaults Only. Quick apology, I noticed that my indicator 4.12 is a little out of date. The last three videos have said 4.11 when they're really 4.12, but I'm sure that's fairly obvious from the names of the videos. So what we're going to do in this video is just mix things up a little bit and start using Edit Defaults Only instead of Edit Anywhere, and you'll see what the consequences of that are inside the editor. So see you in there. So just before we get into the meat of this new lecture, this get platform time seconds is a proper mystery to me. It's not properly documented. It comes out at 16.8 million seconds, which is around 6 months. If I look at my system timer on the surface, that would mean it's the time in seconds since the beginning of this year. But if you do the calculations, it's not quite. It's off by many days. Also, if you change your system date and time, you don't get any different result out of this guy, even if you restart Unreal. Also, if you pull the network cable out your computer, it still don't get anything, so it doesn't appear to be reading it off the internet either. So I don't know what this is, but it's a useful timer. It's a double. It's once a second. If you don't like it, if you're nervous about it, like I am now, then you're welcome to use get world, and then time seconds, like we have done in previous log entries, which we can find here, UE_log, get world, get time seconds. That's just a float rather than a double. So, don't know, mystery. If you know the answer, tell us at community.gamedev.tv. And yeah, let's crack on with this lecture. Anyway, I'm going to recompile my code here because I'm still running a code state from a previous run. Now, by the way, this is a useful lesson. I have not got the code in here. If we do a search for UE_log right now, you'll find that the code state as it sits on my disk does not have that log that you were seeing in the logs here. The one that's talking about the number of times, that previous function I was using, the F platform time thing. But what had happened is if you open Unreal, if you roll your code state back and then open Unreal without recompiling, it will run your previous code state because it remembers it in the intermediate folders. Okay, so now because I've recompiled, it's gone back to the previous behavior where I left you on the last video. So that is a pretty useful lesson, by the way. If you find that behavior is kind of odd, it may be because you went back in your source control but didn't recompile when you got into Unreal. All right, that's just one of the issues with caching in Unreal. Anyway, the point of this video is that we have set ourselves a parameter about how fast we can reload. And if we go into the tank header file, we may well want to say, well, let's make this a U property. And let's imagine it's a firing U property. So I'll pop it like this, Edit Anywhere category firing. I think I'll put it up with the other firing property. And I think while I'm here, I'll put the setup property above. I'm just having a bit of a reorganization of the tank.h and the properties just for fun. Okay, so there's that U property. If I put Edit Anywhere on it, let's compile and see what happens. You know that what Edit Anywhere is going to do is it's going on the tank blueprint to expose in the firing section here under launch speed a reload time in seconds, and that's fine. But Edit Anywhere means this can be edited on any tank. Let me show you. If I go to this tank instance right here, then in the world you select the tank, and if I now go down to the firing property, I could make this guy allowed to reload in just half a second. Whereas this guy over here maybe needs to take 5 seconds, and this guy over here could maybe take 0.1 of a second. Let's see what happens now if I play the game. You see all the tanks are firing at completely different rates. It's hard to see the guy in the far distance unless I F11 to maximize, but you see all three tanks have a different firing rate, and I have my firing rate. Now, that's unfair, basically, and you may want to make the command decision that all tanks have to have the same reload time in seconds. So let me show you what you do. Instead of Edit Anywhere for the reload time, you use a different annotation, which is Edit Defaults Only. And if you look that up, it'll tell you that that means you can only edit the archetype. Now let's see what that means. That means that we can only edit it on the tank or tanks as a whole. Therefore, all tanks must have the same value. So let's just see that in action. Okay, so now if I look around and I take a particular instance of a tank, I'm just going to play to get myself back to the beginning. Now it's actually disappeared out of the instance menu, i.e. when I'm in the content browser or in the 3D view and I select a tank, I cannot see in the firing section anymore the reload time in seconds. Now you may think that's a mistake. Where's it gone? You know, I've said Edit Defaults Only. Does it not work the same way? Well, it does work the same way. apart from you can only edit it on the blueprint. If we go to the blueprint, look, it's there, reload time in seconds. That's what edit default only means. Now, if we play the game, you'll find that all tanks must have that 3 second. Well, the reason there's a discrepancy right now is because I haven't compiled the it's because Unreal is not quite stable enough to handle that change. But when I'm confident that when I reopen Unreal, recompile the tank blueprint, that change will have properly propagated. So let's go there. Let's reopen the tank blueprint. It had no real excuse to crash there, but bless it. Let's 3 seconds. Let's compile that. It's compiled successfully. Compiled successfully, whatever. If I now play the game, you'll see that we all now have a 3 second firing delay again. And there is no way to select an individual instance and override it. You get the idea? That is what edit defaults only does. It lets you only change it on the blueprint, the archetype, the prefab, whatever you want to call it, basically on all tanks. So what I want you to do now is to question every use of edit anywhere. I want you to go through your project, do an actual search, get used to using your IDE search, look for edit anywhere. For each instance, decide whether you want to be editing anywhere or edit defaults only, make the changes and then test your game still works. Okie dokie, so welcome back. Relatively simple challenge this one, edit anywhere in the current project in Visual Studio, and let's just go through. Okay, so the projectile blueprint, do we want to be able to give different tanks different projectile blueprints? I.e., if I tick on this tank here and then look at its properties, do we want that to have a different projectile at runtime? I don't. I'm going to say edit defaults only. Then I'm going to copy this into the copy buffer and then ask the same question for the launch speed. No, all tanks I want to have the same launch speed. So let's move on. What's this guy here? This is the setup of the barrel. Do we want different instances of barrels to have different? No, we don't. We want all the barrels to be the same for now. Now, of course, in a bigger game, you might have replaceable barrels, etc. But they're still different archetypes. They're still different types of barrel. All right, so all of these are going to edit defaults only. How about these crosshair location? Well, we only have one instance of a tank player controller in this case, but still, I'm going to go edit defaults only. In fact, let's make it our default go-to annotation property unless there's a reason to do something else. Same with the tank turret, edit defaults only. So I think that's actually it. Yep, it's saying the entire project does not contain edit anywhere anymore. So let's now recompile, make sure that the game works and that we can still get to the levers in American terms, or the levers in English accent that we need to get to be able to change what we need to change. Okay, so the tank blueprint is unhappy. I've recompiled it. I'm playing. That's fine. So it still seems to play okay. Very easy game to test this one at this stage. If we go to the tank blueprint, you'll find we still have the launch speed, the reload time, the projectile blueprint, all the things we wanted. But when we click on an instance, none of those things are there, which I think is better. So thank you to Daniel for pointing that out. It's been several videos before I've got it into the course, but I wanted to have something to show you it on, i.e. that firing rate. So there it is, edit anywhere versus edit defaults only. Enjoy, and in future, let's use edit defaults only as our default, and think carefully before we say edit anywhere.